Welcome back. Now that we have breakable pots, it'd be nice if they were actually functional and did something for us in the game, such as spawning a treasure pickup or something nice that we can grab after we break it. So we're going to make treasure pickups and spawn them once we break a pot here in this video. Now, for treasure, we need more assets, and this is why it's nice to be resourceful and know where to get free stuff. Now, if I go to the marketplace and search for treasure, there's going to be all sorts of treasure assets, some of which cost money and some of which are free. So you can check that out, but we're going to be using free stuff. I'm going to go to the free tab, go to the permanently free collection, where I know these assets will always be here and will always be free. And here I'm going to look for some treasure. So I'm going to go to page 2. Looks like there's no treasure there. Let's go to page 3. And here we go. Ancient treasures. This is some high quality treasure assets, all for free. So you can check these out. You can add them to a project. I'm going to add them to my project. I have that option because I already own them. If you don't have them yet, you're going to need to install it, and then you can simply add to your project. So I'm going to search for / and make sure I select the correct version here, click Add to Project, and give it some time to install. This is going to be a little under 1 gigabyte worth of assets. So do make sure you have enough room and get that onto your project. Okay, once that's complete, I'm done with the marketplace. I'm going to close it out, and back in my project, in my content folder, I should now see Ancient Treasures. And I can go into Meshes and look at all these treasures. This is amazing. So we can use these as treasures, and as we pick up treasure, we can have some sort of count, like a gold count that we can keep track of for our character. Now, if we're going to be picking up treasures, we're probably going to want some sounds that we can play when we get a pickup, because there's nothing more satisfying than hearing a sort of gold rustling sound when you pick up a treasure. Now, this is one of the reasons why it's a good idea to join the Discord community, because in my Discord server, I have a useful resources channel with lots of different resources for all sorts of things, including lots of free stuff. And someone was really nice and put up these sounds. I'll add a link in the resources for this video, of course, but do make sure you're in the Discord community so you have access to lots of useful resources, including sounds like these. Now, this person has provided all of these sounds. Do make sure that you agree to any terms. This particular artist requires attribution, which means you have to credit this artist in your actual game or anything else you use it in if you're going to use these assets. So here's my attribution to this particular artist. This artist is Eric Matias, very talented individual. They created these sound assets, and you can go to this page to access these assets, but do be aware of this attribution requirement. So if you're going to be releasing your game in your credits, you have to credit this particular artist for this work. Now, for the sound effects, this artist asks that you please list their name and website in your credits screen of your game under sound effects. Now, if you're using these sounds or music in live streaming, they ask that you please verbally credit them and their website. Their name is pronounced Eric Medias. I kind of butchered it earlier. It's Medias. So Eric Medias, this is their website, soundimage.org, and here are the sounds. So always important to be aware of the terms of the sounds that you're using. Now I'm going to scroll down to the sound effects, and here's SFX coins. And by the way, you can donate if you like. So if you appreciate the sounds and you appreciate having access to these assets, do donate to this person, because it does take work to create these sounds. Now, there's some coin sounds here. Go ahead and check them out. But this first one sounds really cool. It sounds like a money bag being shaken. I'm going to go ahead and download this. So I clicked on it. I'm going to click the 3 dots, select download, and it's an MP3. I can show it in my folder here. There's the MP3. And typically we need wave assets. when we're working in Unreal Engine. So we're going to need to get around that by converting this to a wave. Now there are wave from MP3 converters. We can search simply for MP3 to wave, and we can find all sorts of different online converters, most of which are free. I've used Convert.io before. We simply choose files to convert from MP3 to WAV. Now they are going to still be the same quality as MP3s, but at least they'll be in the WAV format that we need. So I'm going to drag that right in and click on Convert. And once it's finished converting, I should have a WAV. I'm going to download that WAV, and now we have coins.wave. So there it is. Now I can get it into my project. So I'm going to close these. I'm done with them. And here in the content folder, I can go to Audio, and I can make a new folder here called Pickups. And in Pickups, I'm going to import that sound. So it's in my Downloads folder. I'm going to go ahead and get that coins1.wave, open it up, and I have my asset. Perfect. So now I have treasure meshes. I have a sound wave. I can go ahead and make my meta sound. So I'm going to go into meta sounds, go to sounds, create a meta sound source, and call this sfx_treasure. And in treasure, I can add an input. This can be the type wave asset. It doesn't need to be an array. I only have that single sound. You can download more of those sounds and mix them up with a shuffle node. I'm just going to use the single sound. I'm going to search for the default value. I'm going to choose coins1 and rename this input to coins and drag in coins. And no need to shuffle. This is not an array. It's only a single sound effect. So I'm simply going to get a wave player. And on play can go into play, and on finished can go into on finished. And we can simply shift the pitch and the volume just a bit. So I'm going to get on play, get a random float, and this will be for the pitch shift. So I'll plug that in, and I'm going to get a random float again. And this will be multiplied by out left. So multiply audio by float there and hook it into the out and press play. And we have our sound. Now for the min, I'm going to set that to about 0.65. And for the pitch, I'm going to set the max to 3.5. Maybe just 3. Actually, I think I'd like it to be about 2. Perfect. Okay, so now I have a sound effect. I can save that and close it. Now that we have the assets, let's make our treasure. Now, treasure can be an item. We have our item class. Our weapon is derived from item, but we can base other classes on item as well. I'm going to go into blueprints, and in items, here's BP item. And we can double click it, and we see that we're using the transformed sign in the tick function here. And in the C++ side, if we go to item.cpp and scroll down, we know that in the tick function, we're updating our running time. And we're also implementing the add actor world offset as long as our item is in the hovering state. So if I broke that there, compile and save, and press play, well, we're still hovering. So we don't really need that in the item blueprint anymore. We don't have it in our weapon, but we never removed it from the item. So we don't actually need that in the item blueprint. Now our item class also has overlap function callbacks. If we go into item.h, we can see, I'm going to make some room here. We can see that we have hovering and equipped states, and we also have our onSphere overlap function and our onSphere end overlap function. So if we make a child class of item and override onSphere overlap, it is virtual after all, we can do something in the case for a treasure. So that's what I'd like to do. I'd like to make a child class of item, and as soon as we overlap with that child class, I'd like to pick up some treasure. So let's go back into our C++ classes folder, and we'll go into our items folder, right-click on item, and create a C++ class derived from item. And I'm going to simply call this treasure. And we can click create class. All right, so hot reloading is done, but I did create a new class. I'd like to go ahead and compile from Visual Studio before testing anything out. So I'm going to close out of the editor for now and reload all from Visual Studio. And here's our treasure class. And it's pretty blank. We don't really have anything here, but all I want to do is override onSphere overlap. I can simply go into item.h where I have that function declared in my protected section onSphere overlap. I'm going to copy that, not including the U function. Remember, child versions of this cannot have that U function macro. It inherits that quality. So in treasure.h, we can make a protected section. And now we have onSphere overlap, and right here at the end, I'm going to mark this with override. So we're overriding this virtual function. And I can go ahead and create a function definition for onSphere overlap. And since this is an override, let's take a look at the parent version and see if there's anything there that we're going to want in the child version. Now we see that we're getting the / character and we're calling set overlapping item. Now that's for weapons, so we really don't need that in our child class, as I'd like to pick up the treasure as soon as we overlap with it. So in this case, this is something that I don't want in the child version, so I'm not going to call super here. What I am going to do instead is I'm still going to cast to / character, because really I only want something to happen if our actual player character overlaps. So I'm going to copy these lines here, if statement and all, and paste them right here, only I'm not going to call set overlapping item. I'm going to delete that line. But I am getting the / character from the other actor I'm casting to / character and storing it in this pointer here. And we need to include / character, so we can add that include, and item.cpp has that include as well. It's in characters / character. So I'm going to go ahead and paste that there. And if we successfully cast to a / character, well, then we can do things like increment the / character's coins, which our character doesn't have any coins. There's no variables for that just yet. We'll get to that, but that's something we could do here. And of course, after doing that, we can play a pickup sound and we can destroy our pickup. So what I'm going to do is call destroy here, and destroy will do just that. It's going to destroy this pickup and the pickup will be no more. Now I do want to play a sound as well before I destroy, so we can add a sound variable to treasure and we can make it private. So I'm going to make a private variable, and let's take a look at one of our classes where we're implementing sounds. We're doing that in our enemy class, aren't we? We can go to enemy.h and go down to the private section. We have a sound base pointer called hit sound, and we made it edit anywhere, and it's in a category sounds. That sounds great. Let's go ahead and copy those. And in treasure.h, we'll paste that, and now our treasure has a sound base pointer. And I'm simply going to call this pickup sound. And we can play this sound. Let's see how we're doing that in enemy.cpp. So we'll go to enemy.cpp, and we know that we're playing the sound using gameplay statics. We're calling play sound at location, specifying where to play the sound. So we can do that as well, and to do that we need gameplay statics, so we can copy that include and we can paste it in treasure.cpp right here. And we can simply check that sound, which is called pickup sound, to make sure it's not a null pointer first. So we'll say if pickup sound, then we'll get gameplay statics. So u gameplay statics, and we'll call play sound at location. Now the first input is a world context object. We can use this. Next is the sound base, that's pickup sound. And finally we have our location, and that's going to be the location of our treasure pickup. So what do you think we're going to pass in there? go ahead and type it out. That's right, it's get actor location. See, you're already getting the hang of this. Excellent job. Now that we're doing this, we'd like to make a blueprint out of this class. So we can compile and launch the editor with Control F5. All right, so I'm going to click Open to get all those assets back open, and we're going to make a blueprint based on the treasure class. Now we can make a folder here in Blueprints. I'm going to go into Items, since technically treasure is a type of item, and make a new folder here called Pickups. And here in Pickups, I'm going to make a treasure blueprint. So I'm going to right-click, Blueprint Class, search for treasure, and select that, and call this BP_treasure. So let's open BP treasure. And here in BP treasure, we have the ability to set our item mesh. And now we have all sorts of meshes. In fact, why don't we go ahead and take a look at our ancient treasures meshes folder again. We can choose any one of these. I like this gold chalice. I'm going to click on it and drag it into BP treasure and drop it in for that static mesh. So that's a nice little gold goblet. And once those shaders are done compiling, we'll see that gold material. There it is. So now that we have this, we want to be able to play that sound effect. So I'm going to click BP treasure self and search for that sound. Here it is. It's called Pickup Sound. I'm going to search for SFX_treasure and choose that. And by the way, we never added a sound attenuation for that, so I can browse to the asset and open it, click on Source, and I'm just going to use that HitFlesh sound attenuation for this. So now we have a treasure. Now we'd like to spawn this when we break a pot, but before we do all that, why don't we just bring one of these treasure blueprints into the world. I just clicked Blueprints for Ancient Treasures. I want blueprints in my project right here. I'm going to go to Pickups. Here's my BP treasure. Let's go ahead and bring that in, and we'll just see what happens when we overlap with it. I'm going to save all first. And there we go. We picked up our treasure. Awesome. So now that we know our treasure works, and we're not really incrementing any stats like a coin count just yet, we'll get to that, but we know that once we have a treasure in our world, we can pick it up. So the next step is to spawn that treasure once we've broken the pot. So essentially, as soon as we break a pot, we want to see a treasure pop up right there where the pot used to be. And to do that, we need to spawn actors. So we'll get into that in the next video. Excellent job. I'll see you soon.